Dishonorable Mention is brought to you by 813area.com. 813area.com is the place to go to see where to go and what to do in all of Hillsborough County. Whether it's the best events, the newest restaurants, or where to be in Tampa Bay, 813 Area is your resource for everything happening around town. For the latest on where to be in 813, check out 813area.com. Dishonorable Mention is now on social media. Follow us on Facebook, and we're at Dishonorable Pod on Twitter too. Next week, we'll start taking questions from Twitter because y'all have been an amazing part of this. Thank you.
Thoughts about President Trump's 4th of July celebration, thoughts about our local 4th of July celebrations, and thoughts about how the Rays are marketing their team. This and much, much more on this episode of Dishonorable Mention. As always, I'm Ernest Hooper, columnist for the Tampa Bay Times, and I'm here with my podcast partners, Representative Chris Latvala. Say hello, Chris.
Good afternoon. I have a lot of thoughts today.
Good. Also with us, Dr. Carla Mastracchio, communications specialist. Hi, Carla.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I have a lot of thoughts, too.
Good. Because we're a thoughtful group. Not with us on this podcast is community activist Becca Teeter. She is away on assignment, but the three of us are going to, yes, that's what I like to say. That's what I said when you weren't here, that you were away on assignment. It sounds cooler than like
but
you're
it is
busy.
good to have you back.
Wait, where did I go if I was on assignment? I was in Vegas.
We didn't say. That's why we say just on assignment.
Oh,
it's
that's
cool.
it's like I'm like an international woman of mystery.
And it makes it sound like you're out, like reporting something for a future podcast.
So we're lying.
Yeah, but you're blowing our cover now.
we can talk whatever you want.
We're trying to look serious, Doctor.
Yeah.
So instead of saying you're on vacation, we went with you're on assignment.
And that's what they always say on the Today Show.
Because the Today Show was reporting stories. Like, I'm not Amber Hunt. This is not in the dark.
Look, we can't be on the podcast saying you're off with the Junior League on a cruise.
Why not?
You're on assignment.
I was in Vegas with 80 Pie. Like, why can't you say where I am? I think that's great.
No, I just like to say
I'm proud of where I am.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be proud. I just like saying on assignment.
I'm an international officer for a national Panhellenic organization.
I'm not
one of 26 in the country.
I'm not saying you should. That's very admirable. You should celebrate that.
I did.
Good. Okay. Thoughts about President Trump's 4th of July celebration. One of the things making headlines is that he made this gaffe and said that the revolutionaries had taken the fight to the skies and taken the fight to the airports and dominated the air war part of the revolutionary fight. And as you know, they did not have airplanes in 1776. That didn't come until more than 100 years later. And so the president blamed the gaffe on the teleprompter going out. But as you might imagine, people are having a good bit of fun with that, including Bette Midler, who tweeted something scathing about the president. What were you guys' thoughts about that? What'd you think, Carla?
Well, hashtag Revolutionary War airport stories is probably trending on Twitter. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's amazing. And I've just been laughing. I was in my office today and I was looking at all the Revolutionary War airport stories, and I was laughing so hard. People were coming into my office and like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm great. I am fantastic."
Yeah, Chris, what did you make of the president and his
I thought
misstep?
it was a nice ceremony overall. Did y'all catch that the Coast Guard during the Coast Guard part of it and the flyover? The Coast Guard that they used, they were from the air station in Clearwater.
No, nice.
So that was pretty cool. But I thought, it was a very much non-political speech. It was a lot of, American patriotism and, so forth. There was no Crooked Hillary's spiel or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
no chanting of "lock her up."
Yeah,
or build
using
a wall.
that as a guidepost, I thought he did all right. but I actually did not catch the gaff until afterwards.
I'm surprised you didn't get invited by the RNC to have a special seat right up front at the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah,
What happened to your invitation, Chris?
I'm not important enough. Maybe Matt Gaetz got invited, but I did not.
Man, don't tell me you're not as important as Matt Gaetz. That's ridiculous.
We need to cut this out.
Yeah.
All of it.
You're just as
You
important
are
as Matt Gaetz.
amazing.
You're more important than Matt
You're
Gaetz.
good enough. You're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you.
That's right. Hey, did Matt Gaetz throw out the first pitch at the Clearwater Threshers game
Don't think
on
so.
July 3rd?
That is very true.
There you go.
And did you get it across the plate?
I did. It was very high though, so the catcher had to jump up, but it got across. And it was either high and outside or high and inside.
Did you do better than the 5-year-old girl?
Yes, but I did not do better than the 96-year-old World War II veteran. So
Well, you weren't supposed to do better than the 96-year-old.
yeah, he
World War II
stole
veteran.
the show, and it was an honor to be able to meet him.
I think we need to speak to the Threshers officials because they seem to keep putting you in these positions where someone can show you up. One year it's a Little League player. The next year it's a World War II veteran.
Or maybe I'm just not very athletic. So
Look, can they just
like,
let you be out there by
maybe
yourself?
Carla
How
would show
about
me up
that?
if we were out there. So.
How about letting you have a spotlight to yourself?
They need to get you out there to throw out the first pitch.
Ooh, I'm a bouncer. I'm not good.
But they don't put you on top of the mound. They put you in front of the mound.
I threw
So
out-
That helps me.
I threw out one at the Rays, and it bounced right up there. It was
See, I'm not
pretty.
important enough to have the Rays ask me to throw out the first pitch.
Well, I don't think I'm going to get asked again.
Maybe in Montreal, would be good when you go up there to cover them. Learn
Yeah,
how to
we'll-
speak some French.
We'll see if that happens. I actually do know 3 French phrases that can be used to pick up a girl.
Yeah, so do I. I actually know "Je crois que tu es belle." I learned it in high school, and it did not work.
What does that mean?
Something like "I think you're very attractive."
Oh.
I was
Mine
not,
is
not successful with that.
How do you say, do you like bunk beds in French?
for those of you
That
who
one
are not.
is, would you like to go on a cruise with me?
Yeah, for those of you who are not regular listeners, Chris has a budding identity as the bunk bed man, and apparently it's appealing to some women who think it would be romantic to share a bunk bed with Chris.
But that is not to be confused with one of our favorite listeners, Deneen.
There it is. We get the Deneen mention in.
Did we do a
early.
Deneen reference when I was gone?
Yes, of
Oh,
course.
good. Oh, good. Okay. I'd like to think we have that consistency.
You know what's interesting is I thought they were on the verge of finding her.
Deneen? Oh, we're going to find her.
Has no one on the Facebook page responded?
So a couple of us may be members of the Groveland High School alumni Facebook page. And Becca was successful in tracking down people that went there in the mid '80s, and they were trying to find her through being a cheerleader. And they think they found somebody's brother who knew some cheerleaders, but we're waiting to hear if it was Deneen or not. But Deneen is not a member of that doggone Facebook page because we looked through every single member.
And the tragedy is that no one is ever going to know who Deneen actually is. At least none of our listeners. So there you have it.
Maybe one day.
Maybe.
That would be a great Father's Day story next year in the Times.
No, not Father's Day.
I don't even know why. That's just, I have a lot of theories on why that would be a great Father's Day story.
Well, you might not have been here, but he was mentioning that every Father's Day, one of his kids writes his column for him for Father's Day, and it's like a Father's Day tribute to Ernest, and he doesn't see it until they're finished. So what I'm thinking is we can give part of the Deneen story to one of his kids, get them to put it into the column, and then maybe use,
Yeah, that's not going to work. I actually see that column before it's published, by the way. I love my kids, but I don't trust
But
them
if
that
you're
much.
in Montreal covering the Rays,
We'll get to the Rays in a minute. Did anyone get a chance to go out to Mayor Jane Castor's Boom by the Bay? A new event, branded with her name. I heard it turned out very well. What did you think about the mayor feeling compelled to brand the event as Jane Castor's Boom by the Bay?
Well, I mean, I think it's a good move on her part. It's not like she's not popular. I mean, if she was unpopular and did that, I'd be like, nice try, lady, but, try again. But I mean, she's really popular, and I think it's a really good opportunity to make your mark on a city in your first couple months as being mayor. So it went really well. A lot of people really liked it. There were different locations for fireworks, so there were like multiple points of failure instead of just one, which was good. So if one location just something happened, I guess it would be overshadowed by the others. So that was good. And she was very personable. I saw a lot of people on social media that took pictures with her and tagged her in pitch photos and things like that. So, yeah, I think it was a good move. Good job.
Yeah, I think it was a good move. I also think it was a very safe move. I'm getting behind fireworks on the 4th of July.
Right.
Yeah, not that she necessarily needs to take risk in her first few months in office, but it was definitely a safe play. Smart leadership. Not necessarily bold leadership, but that's fine for now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves fireworks, and I have no issues whatsoever with her, adding her personal brand and personal touch to it. Because this is her city now, so she's the leader. So it's time for her to make her mark.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. Did you guys get a chance to get out and do anything special on the 4th?
I, recovered from throwing out the first pitch, and I watched a little bit of Trump's parade thing last night. I hate crowds, so I stayed away from actually going out and watching fireworks.
What did you do anything, Carla?
Yeah, I went to Osteria downtown with my mom and my husband. We had a very nice dinner. And then I was going to go to a 4th of July party at my friend Jacqueline's house, but decided not to because Stranger Things is premiering season 3. So I wanted to binge as much as I could before I had to go to bed to wake up for work the next day.
Oh, and so are you caught up? Are you
No,
still...
and I'm on episode 3, and I just can't. And it's so good. God, it's so good. It's like walking an acting clinic every single episode, and every single person in that cast just brings it. And it's just, there's no weak link, and it's just an amazing, amazing cast. Just everyone is just on point, and the kids are great. All the actors are amazing, so it's just a really, really great show.
Well, you know what's interesting that you mentioned Stranger Things. The Tampa Bay Rays are having a Stranger Things night coming up as one of their promotions.
Irony.
And it's been really interesting this week. The Rays had a 3-game series against the Baltimore Orioles, and they put up 10,000 tickets for sale for each of those 3 games at $2 a piece. And they sold in excess of 30,000 tickets to the game. So attendance was actually above the average that they've had this year. They've averaged about 14,000. Attendance at those 3 games were 20,000. And it led my colleague, John Romano, to ask, is the problem the stadium and the location and all the things that we've heard, or is the problem how the team has gone about marketing and trying to draw more people? Apparently, if the pricing point is right on the tickets, you can get a decent crowd out on a Monday night and a Tuesday night and a Wednesday night. Carla, you're a communication specialist. What do you think about how the Rays have gone about marketing?
A couple of things. If you do $2 tickets, can you afford to stay afloat? Like how much, and I don't know the answer. So how much of your budget comes from ticket sales? So that's the first question I'd want to know. And then I'd say, okay, the lowest price point that we can, be okay as an organization, just drop it to that level, because it seems like the lower you go, the more people come out. But you also have to look at like consumer habits of the people that do come out, because I mean, I have a little bit of knowledge of Rays marketing, just a little bit, and I think they have a really high number of jerseys they sell, license plates. So they're fans in the area, but they can't make it to games for, whatever reason. So find out why those reasons exist and then try to mitigate those things. I mean, it takes me a really long time to get to the Trop. So it's like
anecdotally, that is, I would say, the number one complaint of anyone who lives in Hillsborough County, or really anyone who lives outside of the city of St. Petersburg.
Yeah, and I mean, I used to live near Chicago, and I love Chicago. I love the Cubs. I love going. It's very social. I also live near the Lightning Stadium and arena, and I love going to Lightning games. I love going to Lightning games primarily because I love hockey, but also I love being social, and it's kind of like this community thing. It's not like that in St. Pete with the Rays. They haven't been able to cultivate kind of a local vibe because the facilities aren't very good. The location is kind of sketchy, and I don't enjoy sitting in traffic for 2 hours some days, and then 45 minutes to an hour back. It's not conducive for a lot of people. And I don't know. It's just, you have to look at your demographic and what you want to have happen. If you want butts in seats consistently, there's certain things you need to do. If you want to build community, there are certain things you need to do. Figure out what you want and then work backwards.
Yeah. So I have no official education in marketing, but I swear I could be good at it. And there's a whole list of ideas I would recommend to the Rays. One of the things I wonder about is that I know the population of downtown St. Petersburg has grown significantly in the last 5 years, and yet the attendance at Rays games has declined. I don't understand that, and I think they need to do more outreach to the people of downtown St. Petersburg. We know it's hard for people in Tampa to get across that bridge and make that 2-hour drive through traffic, but they have some people right near the stadium that they should be. Yeah, they're younger. They may not be into baseball, but what do? You do some things that are going to appeal to some younger people. There are some brand new apartment complexes in downtown St. Petersburg. I'd go to those apartment complexes and I'd say, hey, how would you like to have apartment complex night at Tropicana Field, and I discount tickets and get some party buses and ride around downtown and let everybody get sufficiently excited for the game.
Have y'all ever been in the Trop where it's been packed and it's like you feel the excitement? Yeah. Like for World Series, I've been in the stadium and I've felt that way.
There's definitely a difference when a crowd is there, and I think so they've reduced the capacity to 25,000.
I know, I saw that too.
So once you get to like 20, 21, 22, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. They will draw that for their series against the Yankees.
I guess I don't feel that way. I mean, I feel like it's not. I mean, there are studies. I don't really do this kind of work, but there are people that come in and design experiences for people. So you have people who design grocery stores, and that's why the lower price items are at the bottom. You have people who design experiences for Abercrombie and Fitch as a company, or Victoria's Secret, and they design like a user experience. I think if you had any of those people look at the Trop, they'd be like, what the hell is this? This is awful.
It's not a great facility.
No, it's terrible. But I mean,
that's why they have spent the last 14 years, or 12 years, I should say, trying to convince someone to build a new stadium.
But I think it's not necessarily a new stadium. I mean, it is in this case, but it's the experience of the consumer when you're in the space. And I've only been to the Trop a couple of times where I felt that excitement, but you can go into other stadiums around the country and other arenas around the country where you walk in and you feel a sense of, okay, this is a sports arena. I'm supposed to be excited here. And the space conditions you to feel a certain way.
There's a buzz.
And
there's a buzz.
Space is awful.
There's a buzz when you go see the Red Sox play at Fenway Park. There's a buzz when you go see the Cubs play at Wrigley Stadium, at Wrigley Field. Yeah. Doesn't matter who they're playing.
Right.
Doesn't matter if it's a day game or a night game. There is a discernible, tangible buzz.
And it's
you
fun.
feel like you're at an event.
It's
I would say
fun.
I would say the Lightning
Oh, absolutely.
has developed
I think that the
and
yeah.
yet you're right. The Rays haven't, and the Rays would argue that they've put a winning product on the field, and that in and of itself should be enough to kind of create the buzz.
That's not something that is for them to say. That's the thing. Like, it's not their job to say that. Like,
They say it all the time.
I know that, and that's wrong. So, yeah, that you're not supposed to do that. It's the people who determine the vibe are your fans and the people. You don't get to determine the vibe. Like, your fans do. You need to create conditions where your fans have a cool experience. And it's not a good space. It's cold. It's, no offense, it's ugly. It's not inviting. I don't have fun when I'm there. I mean, I have a lot of fun when I go to Amalie Arena. I always run into people I know. It's really fun to cheer on the Lightning. They do a great fan experience, and they're a good team, and the owners are great. I mean, and I just don't feel that way about the Rays. It's not fun.
Right. I have a slightly higher opinion of the stadium. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's absolutely, positively horrible. But I do think there's some work to be done in terms of marketing, and in particular, marketing to younger adults, to the younger adults who have brought a very cool and hip vibe to downtown St. Petersburg. And I guess you would argue, hey, that downtown hip vibe doesn't mesh with baseball, which is considered to be an old man sport, but you got to try. And I'll tell you another thing I've noticed. When you go into sports bars all around Tampa Bay, they don't have the Rays game on. I mean, I would create a Rays watch program where you would award restaurant managers with tickets to the game or something like that if our Rays guy comes in and sees them with the game on. I mean, I maybe you have seen it on at different bars, but I've on more than one occasion, I've had to go to the manager and say, "Can you put the Rays game on?" Which I just think is,
and I have to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. Chris, do you think it's crazy to think that they could try to draw some of those young hip people in for a game?
Because I think that, if the Trop was the quote-unquote cool place to go, even the young people that didn't like baseball would go there just to see people and to be seen and to run into their friends and to say that they went.
It's not fun. Like, I don't know how many times I can say it. It's not a fun experience. I don't have fun going there. I don't know a lot of people that do. I think if you want to take your baby and your wife and your daughter or whatever, and you want to have like a family night because it's something to do and you want to support the team, that's fine. But it's not, aside from the fact that you're going there to support the team, you're not going there to have fun and be social and see a bunch of people. That's not the type of environment that is created by this space.
Yeah, because baseball can be a very social sport because it's slow and it's not like football where you have to pay attention to every play, or basketball, or even hockey. But it's not. At least with the young hipsters in St. Pete, they just don't think that's a cool place to go, which is unfortunate because I enjoy going and supporting the Rays and watching them.
And USF games are really fun. So I think that, if you look at a dynamic where you're trying to attract people who don't necessarily live there and have people drive in, there's a lot of people who go to USF games that didn't go to USF. And they have fun because it's a fun vibe. And the school has managed to be able to do that. So...
yeah, they've actually seen a bit of a drop-off in attendance in the last couple of years. It's up now.
Last year.
Okay. We'll see how they do it this year. The last time I went to a USF game, what struck me is that the student participation wasn't where it had been in prior years.
It's up 35% now, apparently.
Okay, good.
Which is good. I mean, which is
because
really
they stopped playing DJ Khaled, which I thought was like the coolest tradition that they had. And
I don't know who that is, but I'm sure he's great.
You know Khaled. That song, all I do is win,
Yeah,
win.
you don't remember? I thought
win,
DJ
win,
Khaled
win,
and
win.
Khalid were the same people, and y'all made fun of me for weeks.
Yeah, but I still don't know who that is. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I know there's a difference. I know the
Everybody
name.
say up, and then you win. That song, they used to play that like on every kickoff, and everybody would stand up.
I'm sure they did.
Anyway, sports marketing is really interesting. It's going to be a critical part of how this community looks in the future. We may reach a point where we end up saying goodbye to our baseball team. We may end up, I think there's some upcoming negotiations regarding the Bucks that people haven't yet anticipated, but I think they will soon want either improvements or possibly a brand new stadium. So
What's wrong with Ray J?
well, Ray J is 22 years old, which is considered to be aging in the world of sports arenas. And the experience of watching at home is so much better than it was 22 years ago that attendance at NFL games has waned a bit because people are asking themselves, what do I want to do? Do I want to leave the house at 9:30, wade through traffic, tailgate on a really hot day, sit in a really hot stadium where I can watch one game and pay $16 for a beer,
$50 to park.
$50 to park, or do I want to stay home with my giant jumbo TV, watch 3 or 4 games, keep up with my fantasy football team, and drink beer out of the, get up and walk to the refrigerator to get a beer instead of getting up and walking 150 yards and waiting in line for 15 minutes to get a beer. The experience at home for many fans has begun to trump the experience of being at the game. And so their idea is going to be, and we've already seen this in Dallas, is to create a more incredible stadium experience, a more incredible game day experience where it just doesn't meet your expectations, it exceeds your expectations. I think one of the things the Bucks would be interested in, if not getting in an entirely new stadium, is creating some kind of cover so there aren't so many fans in the sun. We've seen that with Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. It's now where the stands are covered, so fans are out of the sun. If it rains, they're not getting drenched, but the game's still played outdoors. So it's going to be really interesting. And I wanted to ask, Carl, I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but
What?
USF wants their own stadium for football. And I wonder if there's some solution there between USF and the Rays and some kind of joint effort where they could both get
like a multi-use stadium,
yeah, like a multi-use
like
stadium.
Washington or something.
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly. I mean, architecturally, we've made advances in terms of stadium design. A multi-use stadium used to be the kiss of death when we were talking about stadiums that were built in the 70s. But
I mean, UW does pretty well. They have a multi-use stadium.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be completely awful. So, what else is going on with you guys? Carla, you were not with us last week. Do you want to share a little bit about what you were doing when you were on assignment?
I love that I was on assignment. I'm just going to tell you, I was on assignment. Every time I go to conferences, every time I travel, I'm like, I'm on assignment. It sounds cool. Sounds legit.
Yeah, I'm going to be on assignment later this month where I will be in Chicago going to see a Cubs game. So,
but are you working or are you really on assignment? Like, what are you doing there?
It's just vacation.
Oh, okay. So that we're just calling it on assignment,
for the
everything
listeners,
vacation related.
yeah, for the listeners of the Dishonorable Mention podcast, we will say that, well, I won't be here, so I don't know what you guys are going to say.
So when I'm really working and I travel a lot for my job, are we still going to say I'm on assignment? I just want to know the rules. Yeah.
Unless you come up with a better phrase. So we need something catchy that
or you could just say you're bunk bedding it.
Yeah. How about that?
You and Fran are bunk bedding it in the Bahamas.
I think my birthday was this week, and I think my friends and I made a thing where you've been bunk bedded, or we made a verb out of the bunk bed thing at dinner the other night. I forgot what we said, but I'm going to ask them and report back next week.
So how excited were you to turn 33?
So good. I mean, 33 is such a good age, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, yeah, bring it on.
Good.
Hashtag this is 33.
I like it. I like the sound of that. While you were celebrating your birthday, I was at Clearwater Beach.
Yeah, how did that go?
I let my hair down, and it was it was really good. I really enjoyed Clearwater Beach. I wish the parking wasn't such a challenge. Instead of doing what I normally do, which is park at Coachman Park and take the Clearwater Ferry, or drive around Clearwater Beach for an hour finding a relatively cheap spot, I broke down and paid an exorbitant amount of money to park in the Ritzy Hotel parking garage. My wife was hungry and was ready to get out and get something to eat. I would tell you how much I paid, but if I did that, it might jeopardize my chances of getting a pay raise next year. So, but beyond that, it was a good time. We enjoy Krabby's. We like going there. I had the shrimp and grits. It was very good. And later on, I ate again because that's what I do when I go to Clearwater Beach. I try to eat early and often. And
did you have some grouper?
I had grouper nuggets at Frenchie's Rockaway Grill. So, man, I wish we could do a podcast from there. I'm so in love with that place.
If you're a fan of Dishonorable Mention, make sure to also check out Ralph the Lawyer podcast here on the 813 Area Podcast Network. Starring a second-generation Tampa attorney, Ralph Guido makes the law easy and accessible for people, as well as anything but boring. With a menagerie of guests and his staff, Ralph and friends talk about everything from employment issues for women to whether or not you should cooperate with the police during a DUI check. It starts about the law, but it's way more fun and interesting than a statute book. Subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
No, good times on Clearwater Beach. And while I was at Clearwater Beach, Joe Biden was out campaigning and trying to explain that the brush up he had with Kamala Harris during the debate last week was really not that big of a deal. Carla, did you get a chance to see Senator Harris take on Vice President Biden?
Yeah, I thought she crushed it, man.
What was your take on that?
She did great. I mean, she's awesome. Like, she really has emerged as like a really cool, relatable, and also fierce competitor. And I liked her at Pride too, and she was dancing up on stage with her white jeans and her rainbow jacket. I mean, she looked like a performer. It took me a couple seconds to realize like that was a politician and not like a rapper. She looked awesome. She looked really comfortable.
So what do you think of this? What I'm hearing from a lot of my friends, and I certainly think this is generational. I mentioned this in the last podcast, but what I'm hearing, particularly from my older African-American friends, is that she can't win. And we need to cease with the circular firing squad because all she's doing is making it more difficult for the only guy who can defeat Trump.
What are their reasons that she can't win?
Vice President Biden. Well, they point to the fact that Donald Trump won as an indication this nation is no longer interested in being led by an African American, and they point towards Hillary's loss and conclude that this nation has no interest in being led by a woman. And they think the only way you can defeat a white guy. It's with another white guy.
So let me get this straight. So
I'm just laying out. I'm just laying out.
I don't think logic is going to work here, so I'm not even going to respond to that because that's bullshit. Sorry, I think you have 8 years.
There's a lot of political pundits saying that. I mean, it's my friends. It's also.
But I think their reasons are bullshit. I'm sorry. Like you have a black president we've had for 8 years, and we had the popular vote being won by a woman, and all of a sudden it's like, oh well, didn't win the popular vote, so let's go back to another white guy. It's like I don't think that those people that voted are still going to vote, and they're still there. It's making sure they're brought out and made to feel seen. And I think just because we have a white guy in office, you're going to try to combat him with another white guy. That doesn't make sense.
Well, let me say this: Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote, but one of the states she needed to win and that she didn't win was Florida. You think
because she was lazy.
Do you think a black woman could win Florida?
Yes, I do. I think anybody who works hard and can bring out a population of people that will get excited about voting for them can win Florida. I think the Clinton campaign was lazy.
Can Vice President Biden get people excited?
If he's not lazy, then yeah. I think he's acting pretty lazy right now.
Because that's the counter to that argument. The counter is that, and we've talked about this before, when you look at modern history, successful Democratic presidential campaigns have come from younger Democrats outside of the mainstream. John F. Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. None of those guys at the time would you say were mainstream candidates. And they certainly, I think if we were to categorize, then we would not put Vice President Biden in the same category in terms of where he is.
I don't think he's lazy. I shouldn't say lazy. I think he just is entitled and expects the nomination. I really get that vibe from him. Not necessarily his campaign as a whole, but his vibe that I get right now is, I got this. And I think that needs to change. I think he needs to get a little hungry. I think he needs to communicate that hunger, if he has it, like to everyone else.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think? Do you think after watching this nation elect Donald Trump that we could do a significant reversal and elect an African American woman?
Well, let me pose a question to you. If next year the presidential contest is Barack Obama versus Donald Trump, who do you think wins?
Oh, I think Barack Obama wins.
So I think that's your answer.
Well, I mean, we have 8 years of leadership. Barack Obama would have 8 years of leadership to support his campaign, and he has won Florida twice. I think Florida is going to be pivotal for whoever's running for president. I think Florida's almost a must win. And so,
but I think Florida's got more better. Republican in some respects.
Well, the influx of retirees, particularly in the villages, does have some political pundits thinking Florida is tilting more Republican.
But I think even if Trump wins Florida next year, Florida is not the make or break state for Trump. I don't believe.
I think he has to win it in several other states. I think the Democrats have a path to the White House where if they win Florida, it's almost sealed.
Because I think Senator Harris, if she doesn't win Florida, could possibly win Georgia. And that would take the stranglehold off of the South for the Republicans. And I haven't seen the polling in the Rust Belt, how Harris does compared to Trump. But I know Biden is beating Trump in the Rust Belt. And those are states that Trump carried.
No, that's without a doubt significant. And I think Carla made a good point in that, you can't anoint someone as your nominee. Your nominee has to earn it. And I think one of the differences we saw in 2016, whether you love it or not, is that Donald Trump earned that nomination. If it was just an anointing, Jeb Bush would have been the nominee. But he was practically done before we even got to the Florida primary. On the other side, the Democrats and Debbie Wasserman Schultz tried as hard as they could to anoint Hillary Clinton as the nominee again, instead of making her earn it.
But she didn't earn it this time, and she didn't earn it the first time she ran. I was living in Iowa, and I just remember the Obama campaign. All my students worked so hard for the Obama campaign, like going door to door, went in rural areas. I mean, they just had so much hunger and excitement. And my students that worked for the Clinton campaign were ordering, big trays of sandwiches from the grocery store. And they were like, "Yeah, we're not really doing much." And it was a noticeable difference, and I could hear it because they would talk about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you have to, and Vice President Biden will have to earn it, and he'll have to show a little more dexterity in debates when he gets challenged by someone like Senator Harris, and if he's not able to, he's going to be in trouble for sure.
Yeah, he was caught completely flat-footed, and I would think that he would have known that he was going to get hit hard by somebody, and it would. You could predict that it would have come from her.
One of the things I think I heard him say in a recent report is that he didn't expect the attack to come from Senator Harris. So, but you got to be prepared for everything.
Why would he not expect it? Does he not think he's in an election?
I don't know. He thought.
Like, oh my God, you were my friend. Like what?
He thought the attack was going to come from someone else. He said. I think he did. I think he did think Senator Harris was his friend, and he didn't expect it to come from her.
Oh my God, that's so sad. Oh my God.
I wonder what he would have said to her afterwards. Like, yeah, are we still Facebook friends?
If somebody would have said that to you, I'd be like, "I'm sorry, what?" Like, you do know we're on stage with a lot of people, right? They're going to make a decision soon. So, whatever, dude. All right.
Did you have any other thoughts about the Democratic debate? Marianne Williamson?
I really like her. I do.
All right, I think it's time for us to laugh.
I really like her. I do.
She was not very impressive in the debate.
Because no one knew who she was. If you knew who she was and you read her stuff and you follow her on Twitter, she's exactly who she is on Twitter. None of this should be a surprise. I think because people don't know who she is, they're surprised. But, what you see is what you get with her. And, I'm sorry. Like, the guy we have now is pretty much the exact opposite from her. And he was able to pull it out and win with some hard work and dedication.
Yeah,
Not saying that she's going to, but,
She was trying to make that point that while the debate that she was on focused a lot on issues and the complexities of those issues, no one on stage was delivering a message, that could, pun intended, trump make America great again. And she wanted to get across that, biblically, that only love can trump hate. And, I just don't know, in a field of 24 candidates, if she's going to get enough of an opportunity.
She probably won't, but she was herself. She, delivered the messages. I think that she has always delivered, and she's kind of like I said this on Twitter the other day. I'm like, she's kind of like your thrice divorced aunt who really, really likes champagne and shows up at a party and is really interesting. I think she's an interesting person. And I think that, she entered this race and she should be given as much respect as anyone else has. Who cares? Look who we have in office now. Do you really?
If there were 20 candidates and she was one of the 20 candidates, I would be fine. But her presence in this first series of debates denied an opportunity for a couple of other people, including the governor of Montana. And I just
that's not her problem.
Yeah, I know. But
it's also not Kamala Harris's problem.
I think I would have rather
after Joe Biden.
I think I would have rather heard from the governor of Montana than Marianne Williamson.
And that's
But
fine.
that's just me.
No, but that's fine. But it's like, what are you going to say? Like somebody is taking the mic and running with it, and you're going to penalize them because
I was excited to hear her. I just, she just didn't really articulate a whole lot in a way that inspired confidence. So.
Yeah, I don't think that's her job though. Like culturally in this election, I don't think she's going to get the nomination. But I think what she does provide is she provides a different perspective in which to combat a really offensive and detrimental ideology coming from the right. Not all people on the right, just the extreme right. And I think that her message of like love and acceptance and just kind of the warm fuzzy was a welcome change. And I think it adds something to this election cycle, even if she doesn't get the nomination. I also think that she should not start a war with New Zealand because that would be really bad.
I don't think she was.
They'd be very confused.
Yeah, I don't know if she was advocating for that, but she actually spoke very highly of the New Zealand Prime Minister.
If Trump had a sense of humor, he would fire whoever the current ambassador to New Zealand is and nominate Marianne Williamson to be the new ambassador.
Yeah,
so then she could just go and live over in New Zealand.
That would be funny. And then when she got to New Zealand, she could share with New Zealanders the history of America's Revolutionary War and how we were able to use planes to defeat the British.
I have been laughing at that for hours, and it will not get old. I don't know when it's going to get old. I'm sure it will, but
what kind of memes have you been seeing?
Oh, I'll post one right on the Facebook page tonight. The Battle of JFK at LaGuardia, and LaGuardia was like epic, man. Like I don't even know. It was terrific. Never better. Great.
Nobody had bombers like we had bombers in 1776.
The tide turned when we were able to overtake Dulles. The teleprompter wasn't working, but I don't know. What else is happening? What's happening? What does a state legislator do in the middle of the summer when you're not in session?
Hang out with their friends and do a podcast.
Other than that, got anything else going on?
Work regular jobs.
I know there was a number of laws that went into effect July 1st.
Yeah, the texting one was one of the big ones. So now it would be a primary offense to get caught texting and driving. So hopefully everyone puts their phones down when they get in their cars and starts driving.
Well, I hope that includes law enforcement officials too, because I have to tell you, I've seen a few texting and driving and actually typing on a laptop. They used to have those laptops up front.
Yeah, I've done some ride-alongs, and one of the things I learned from the ride-alongs is a lot of officers, as they're driving, will run plates of people around them, like either at traffic stops or that are just driving by, to see who all has warrants and who doesn't. And then if they have warrants, then they start following that person to see if they're going to commit a traffic infraction to get pulled over for. So it's pretty interesting stuff that they do.
So, Chris, do you have a Florida man story for us?
I do, and this is the perfect season for Florida man because it's July 4th time. So there were a lot to choose from. The one that I picked, though, is from Miami, of all places. And it is a South Florida man seen on video lighting fireworks inside Dollar Tree. In honor of 4th of July.
We have got to get Dollar Tree to sponsor this podcast. We mentioned Dollar Tree.
Or Dollar General.
Or Dollar General. Yeah. Or Family Dollar. We're
whoever wants to be our first sponsor.
I don't know. I think we give them a bad rap. I'm not sure they want us. I'm not sure that we're their demographic.
If they sponsor us, we will quit doing Florida man stories from their stores.
Yeah. And we'll actually, maybe we could do a podcast out of Dollar General, They have prune juice on sale.
Yeah.
When my brother comes to town, you guys got to meet my brother. My brother comes to town. He always wants prune juice.
So what was your brother doing in the mid '80s?
And
Was he around Gainesville?
no, he's my brother's 6 years older than me, so he was already gone.
We gotta find out who this Deneen was. Was he around during the hot tub parties y'all used to have in college?
You know, it wasn't quite a party. It was just kind of like a visit to the park. I need somebody who was around Gainesville back in the mid '80s to school you guys on the park. It wasn't the disgusting place that you guys are making it out to be. I mean, geez, you're making it sound like
a seedy hot tub place?
yeah, it wasn't. It was fairly reputable.
Fairly reputable is not a ringing endorsement.
Well, you know,
No, I don't know. That's the thing.
the term hot tub in and of itself, you know, suggests, that's why they stopped calling them spas. You know, that's what they really are.
I
They're
don't know the cultural
spas.
history of the jacuzzi. And that's the thing. And maybe you do, and that's great. But I don't. So when I hear of a hot tub party place in Gainesville, Florida in the 80s, I am so sorry that I don't think.
I got it. I you know what? There's a guy who works for the Port Tampa Bay, Charles. I'm gonna get Charles to chime in on this. He'll remember the part.
For our 1 year anniversary, which is in January, right? Didn't we start this in January? We have to go to Gainesville, find a hot tub, and do our podcast from a hot tub
Well,
in Gainesville.
the hot tub place isn't there anymore.
We could go to the Harbor Island Athletic Club. I'm there every day. We could sit in our hot tub.
Yeah, it's not the same.
They'll be a sponsor.
It's not the same.
Well, Bridge, will you be a sponsor? I think you should be a sponsor.
You know, we can ask this. It would be the same.
Call us.
The park was special. You guys just you don't understand.
All right. I can't. I really can't. It was special?
Yes.
No.
It was one of the many institutions that
how
we
many
enjoyed.
How many hot tubs were at this place?
You know what? I want to say there might have been 6.
Because I have friends that grew up in Gainesville.
And each of them were kind of like fenced off, so you could have some privacy.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying there was like a champagne room with these hot tubs? Can I get the VIP? Was there a curtain?
Like
when you say fenced off, like how was it physically fenced off?
just
Walk me through it.
like you know, so you could have
No, I
like
don't
one
know.
party, and then someone there could be another other guest in another hot tub.
Did you need a password to get in there?
No.
Yeah, we need to look this place up, Carla.
You know what? I bet it's on Wikipedia.
I will be in Gainesville in August, early August, for a couple hours. I'm going to look this place up.
Well, it's not there anymore. It closed like in the 80s. As people got more
It
hot
wasn't
tubs.
sustainable. I can't imagine why.
Well, because it kind of like
the spread of STDs.
no.
That business model not being sustainable surprises the heck out of me. I mean, I don't know.
More people got hot tubs in their backyards, and so there was no longer a reason to go and rent one.
Who would want to just go sit in a hot tub with a stranger on a Friday night?
It was kind of like Blockbuster. Once people started getting, their own VCRs, there was no reason to go and rent VCRs from Blockbuster. Same thing. Look, the park was legitimate. You guys are making fun of me. I'm telling you.
Were there like police things at this park, or?
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't like that. At least it wasn't when I went. Maybe I didn't.
Are you looking it up, Carla?
No, I'm looking at pictures of Gigi and Bella Hadid at Fashion Week, but I can look it up. I'll look it up right now. Oh, yeah, hot tubs in Gainesville. Let's see.
Nah, I just looked it up. There's nothing on it. Sadly. Hey, so in closing, does any shout outs? Carla, you got anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Ooh. Gosh, I don't think I have anybody I want to give a shout out this week. A shout out to this week. Yeah.
How about a shout out to yourself for turning 33?
Special year. Really excited about it.
It is a special
I'm
year.
worried about getting older, but you know what? 33 is going to be a good year.
Any chance we can go celebrate after the podcast?
Sure.
I'd love to do that. Chris, you got anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Just our founding fathers who 243 years ago had the foresight to say up yours to England and help form our wonderful country.
That's a pretty good shout out.
And to whoever in the 1980s thought it was a good idea to have hot tubs as a like
as an
touristy
entertainment destination,
entertainment venue in Gainesville.
We did not talk about the Betsy Ross flag. Nike
we can.
controversy. All right, look, just wrap up quickly with
you
that.
want me to wrap up with the Betsy? Don't you think a little bit?
Just this will make
Nancy.
This will make our last topic.
I feel like it's a little negative Nancy. No, I mean it really bothers me why we're not using the Betsy Ross flag in pop culture as much because it's been co-opted by neo-Nazis and white supremacists, and that to me is just really sad. It's like I don't want to yield symbols and symbology that has been, traditionally not used for that. I don't think they should have the right to just take a symbol and just be like, okay, we're going to use this flag now. It's like, who are you?
Yeah,
you're a freaking Nazi. No.
Well, in fact, there are folks at the Anti-Defamation League that are seeing those instances where they have been, where neo-Nazis and white supremacists have used the Betsy Ross flag are not as frequent as some may have led you to believe.
It just really bothers me. They shouldn't be allowed to take that. I mean, not that we don't have our problems of, racial injustice and oppression in this country and with our justice system. Not that we don't have that, but to take a flag and just be like, oh, now we can't use it now because they have it. It's like, screw you. You're a Nazi. You are literally a Nazi. We literally fought a war against you. And now we're just going to give you one of our flags and say, okay, now no one can use it. That's bullshit.
Yeah, no, we can fight to take it back. And there are a lot of dark passages in American history. We are an imperfect union, and the best way to deal with those imperfections is not try to silence people or tie us to anger. The best way to deal with it is to talk about it and to dialogue about it and discuss, what was upsetting about it or what wasn't upsetting about it. And I thought it was interesting that I've had some friends say to me that they felt like Nike was just trying to get some publicity out of the whole thing, and that, bad publicity is better than no publicity at all. So I don't know if that was the case, but in the end, it did seem to be, to me, much ado about nothing. And if you want to help this nation acknowledge its history of slavery and other things, there are much better ways to go about it than trying to taint a symbol that a lot of people treasure. Chris?
Yeah, the whole thing is, unfortunate because, Colin Kaepernick from the get-go said that his protest wasn't the flag, it was police brutality. And now it's kind of changed that the protest is indeed the flag. And as, the Betsy Ross flag is not racist. President Obama had it at his inauguration. And the fact that there are some racist people that use it now doesn't mean that we should cede, that flag to them and let them continue to use it for racist means. Because I didn't think it, and certainly more than I what makes something racist. But I never knew that it was something that was racist. And just because it came from, the founding and because the founders, had slaves, it doesn't take away, what they did in founding our country. And yeah, they were very imperfect people, but I've never really thought of it as a racist symbol.
Yeah. Well, listen, maybe we'll have a deeper dialogue about where we are in terms of how we treat our history of slavery and the topic of reparations. Tune into the next episode of Dishonorable Mention.
And I just sent y'all something from the Orlando Sentinel while y'all were talking from 1986 that talked about the hot tub place that they had in Orlando.
All
That was
right.
the same place that they had in Gainesville. And apparently Hoop made some money in college because this place was $8 an hour to rent a hot tub.
I went there with a gift certificate for winning a dance contest. That's a true story. But it's a story for another time. Okay, let's wrap it up, everyone. Say goodbye to our faithful
Y'all have
listeners.
a good weekend.
Yeah, you have a good weekend too. Carla?
Bye.
Bye.